All right, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Ed.
I'm gonna lose my fucking mind with this thing. It worked fine when I had another guest on. Uh,
I have done nothing, I promise.
you're a car crash. You're an absolute car crash. All right, take us away.
Can I do my quote now, Ed?
Yeah, go for it. Fuck it.
I had a whole thing with the first aid kit ready to go, and
Uh
it's all just gone. Right, let's do this. We are the chosen of Azuran, beloved of the gods and heirs to the world. Our armies are the finest in creation, swift where our foes are lumbering, cultured where they are barbaric. Give no thought to failure nor defeat. We are the children of Ulthuan, and we shall prevail.
Excellent. Very fitting for high elves. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, how is everyone doing here for episode 22 of the Close Order podcast? We're back. We're coming up on a year. We'll have to think about something to do because obviously we've been
Have a
doing.
birthday celebration.
Yeah, this is a fortnightly podcast, so we'll have to think about something that we can do in, I guess, 2 months' time. That's really not that far away, is it?
No, very exciting.
Yeah,
Looking forward to it.
very, very exciting. So let's not even clickbait. Let's just start off with the most exciting thing. Anyone who has seen the thumbnail, which hopefully hasn't changed itself over as it seems to be trying to do every time I go live, you'll see that there's some fantastic art. So, I've taken some artistic liberties, and Lewis has got a neck brace on and a bruised eye. That's what that's meant to represent. So do you want to tell us the story? Because I don't know the story yet, but I'm interested in hearing how you became injured.
I've had a slightly stressful day today, Ed. But just note my dedication to the podcast in that I'm still here after being in a car accident earlier this morning. Yes, any of you that have driven on the fine county of Essex's roads recently, you may be aware of the phrase that an unfortunate council employee was caught saying a few years ago, which is that the roads in Essex have entered a state of managed decline. Now, unfortunately, what that means is that there are. I was going to use the word potholes, Ed, but I'm going to change that word to the word craters.
Okay, good.
Scattered across Essex's roads, especially some of the more rural roads, which is one of the routes I use to get into work. And unfortunately, today, a fine gentleman in front of me decided that he'd seen one of the craters on a steep hill in the ice, decided that he was going to stop for said crater instead of maneuver around it. I was not anticipating effectively enough the stop, put my brakes on, and unfortunately nothing then happened, which is always slightly disconcerting when you put the brakes on your car and nothing happens. So I ended up in the boot of his car with, thankfully, it was a hire car I was dropping back off at work today and not my own car.
Yeah.
So I have had to make some awkward phone calls to my boss and to the work insurance company saying, I'm really sorry, but I smashed up the car.
Well, it sounds to me like it might not be your fault.
No, it's definitely not my fault.
Okay, so in that case, it doesn't need to be an awkward email. It needs to be you've given me a fucking lemon. You're lucky that I'm still alive. I might come to work later on if I feel like it.
No, to be fair, it's brand new. It was literally done about 600 miles. Big Mazda beast thing. So yeah, it was definitely the ice rather than the car.
Right. I thought it was a technical fault. I see.
No,
So
I don't think
what
so.
we're circling back to, it is definitely your fault. You cannot be trusted. You're an absolute
I'm not allowed
liability.
to admit fault. My insurance company has told me not to do that. So.
That's probably true.
Definitely shouldn't do it on a live podcast.
It's all right. Nobody watches this.
People are watching.
No one. It's absolutely fine. So that's interesting. That's not the story that I thought I was going to get. Okay, that's fair enough. Thank you for sharing your possibly traumatic experience, milked for content.
We're all good. Have a slightly sore neck, but other than that, we're all right. And luckily, the guy I crashed into, he works at a body shop. So he's already fixed his car.
Oh, wow.
He emailed me saying, yeah, I'm all fixed up.
Incredible. I guess because you're not paying, you don't care. But
well, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, no, it cost me 12 grand.
Yeah, that's a conversation he can have with the insurance company.
Absolutely. Yeah, not one that you have to deal with. Well, we've got a lot of the regular faces. Good to see you all. Ginger Steve's here. Ultimate Funk. Matthew as well. Thank you all for letting us know that the audio was not working at the start. I'm going to... It's definitely not me, because I'm tech literate, and I managed to make it work when Lewis isn't here. Lewis has no responsibility on the back end. However, I'm definitely blaming you, so we'll see what I can do with that. Who else we got? I can't remember if I said Ultimate Funk. We got Nicholas here as well. Good to see you. We'll be potentially playing this weekend coming up. Oh, there's a teaser, because we're going to be talking about Saffron Slam, which is this weekend just coming. Callum's here. The change in tone is giving me whiplash. Yeah, I've had a day. Anthony's here as well. 4 a.m. in the Philippines. I do always worry a little bit about you, bud. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. So that's a concern.
Becoming a vampire.
Yeah. Matthew with the pithy, the issue with the Essex roads is that Essex people driving on them, and as far as I can tell from today, that does seem to be the issue, because it wasn't the road that caused the accident. If there were no people in cars on the road, there would have been no car crash. So
100%, and there'd be no potholes either.
Well, I don't know.
It would be just
local government. I think there'd probably still be potholes. I don't know how they'd be caused, but they'd still exist. Callum says failed leadership to redirect charges. Very good. That's bringing us back on track. Ginger Steve, TLDR, Lewis lost control of his vehicle while wearing his white stilettos. Is this tradition in Essex? I think you look good in stilettos.
It definitely is. I'm wearing them right now.
Yeah.
So there's your mental image.
I'm trying to think. Have I ever worn high heels? I might have. I'm not sure I have. I think my feet are too big to have been able to put on any of my friends, even when drinking. So
I don't know how. Definite side note. I don't know how women able to stand up on the particularly massive ones, because it feels like you're just working on tiptoes.
It's impressive, right? That's a skill.
Some people can run in them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw a video of I think an American football player had put his missus's shoes on and ran upstairs, and I thought, first of all, impressive that they were able to hold, the stress, but also, goddamn. Yeah. What else we got? Winslow here. Kislev preview content. That's funny.
We did mention ice and a hill.
Yeah, and a car crash. Steve was asking if you hit the accelerator, not the brake. It's possible.
Could well have happened. It was like 6:30 in the morning. So
no. It definitely didn't happen. We were not admitting fault in this traffic collision. Just to be clear. Ben says, loving High Elf Week. Hell yeah, loving doing it. I'm trying to think what to do, because there's one more day. This is today's video for High Elf. We will be building some Seaguard lists later on in the stream. And by some, I mean one for Lewis, because it's the aspect of High Elves that I haven't really looked at. It's less, I've got less information on it, less, yeah. So, yeah, that'll be good. And then we've just got more responses from Callum and Anthony that we don't necessarily need to read out. Hell yeah. Remember to like the stream. Redown is the bold. Thank you so much. For once, I was actually getting in that direction, but I appreciate the help and the reminder. If you can, like the stream, always does help. Give it a thumbs up. More people see it. And if you are interested in watching it on Twitch Existence, I do see you there as well. Appreciate having you on Twitch. It does help in terms of getting me partnered on Twitch. What does partnered on Twitch mean? Basically nothing, but it just means that it's actually worth multi-streaming, and if I want to do any solo content on there, it gives me the option to do so. So just want to get that set up and have it in the bag for when it's actually worth doing. Shall we start off with what you wanted to start off with, your little bit of a hobby update? And I think, interestingly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it on stream, and you're not going to have any visual cues unless you open the stream as well. So I'm just going to tell you what you can see. And
I've
then
learned
you
from
can...
last time, Ed, and I have opened the stream.
Good man.
Remains on a 15-second delay.
Yes. Well, you made the slideshow, so you should hopefully remember which order everything's in. But let's just make sure this works. We're coming in, and immediately it is scuffed. I have spent 2 hours setting this all up before we went live. I want you to know that I've been working moderately hard, and this is getting right on my fucking tits, basically. But yeah, so...
I want the old software back, Ed.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, there's issues with that as well. So I've got the screen share on, but it doesn't seem to want to work.
Ooh, there's lots of hyperspace going on here.
Hyperspace?
It's like, ooh.
There we go. Now we're cooking with charcoal.
Galore.
Oh yes, the transitions are good. So apologies for the white background. This is Lewis's fault. He made this slideshow. So the first picture we've got here is of the trophy. Do you want to tell us about the trophy?
Hell yes. So I have made quite limited progress on the Undead Bretonians in the last couple of weeks, although I have built one model.
Yep.
Because I have been working on the trophies on Slam instead. A lovely gentleman prints them for me, but this is one of the first, second, and third place trophies that will be given away at the Saffron Fantasy Slam this weekend. Look how cool it is! Big dwarf action going on here. I haven't put the nameplate on the bottom of the plinth yet, but yeah, this is what we were giving away for our podium finishers this weekend. How cool is that?
That's very cool. I do like those. I've got a big Tyranid Hive Tyrant or whatever the one with 4 swords is. Yeah, from the event that I won. I won back in day. So that's a fun one. But yeah, no, it's cool. It's nice. You don't paint them, but I was told that if I painted the Swarmlord, that was what it was, the Tyranid Swarmlord. Yep. I was told if I painted the Swarmlord, I would be allowed to bring it as a model. So I guess...
If you want a base, bring him back.
Yeah, if you want to chisel him off, so like at the bottom here, you can see there's like on the plinth, you've got a little square. I reckon if you carefully separated the base from the plinth, you could use that as a pretty cool unit filler. Especially if you play dwarves, but I guess if you play anyone, just bring it for the ego.
Yeah, it would definitely tower. I mean, the photo doesn't give it justice, but it's probably 6 to 8 inches high. So
I just want to point out for the audio listeners, Lewis just stretched his finger and thumb apart, roughly 3 to 4 inches apart, and went, "Yeah, it's about 6 to 8 inches high." Now I'm not making any aspersions, but I want to be clear.
Leave me alone.
I want to be clear. Lewis said 6 inches and then mimed a very small distance. And I will leave you to draw your own conclusions.
I used the 2 hands to do the 6, and then I added a few inches on with my finger and thumb.
Yes, I see. The problem was the other bit was off screen. Yeah. Lewis is also, I don't think concussed, but you did say you were a bit jumbled. So I'm taking this opportunity, because normally you give as good as you get, but this time I'm just going to be bullying you. You can't stop me. So we'll move on to the second image, because you did say you'd make a little bit of progress on the Undead Bretonians.
So we are now officially fully built on the Undead Vampires. None of them are painted yet, but they are now built, and I managed to get the last of the old White Kings in the shop.
Very cool.
Before they upgrade to the new big bloke on the massive tactical rock, which I imagine will not fit on a 100 by 50 mil base in the slightest.
100 by 50 mil. Most things fit on that.
Whatever the size of the cavalry base is, I don't know. Don't even care anymore. I don't know why I'm here.
Neither do I. You have a really good excuse to have cancelled this week if you wanted to.
Funnily enough, despite the bullying, I actually quite enjoy being here.
Good. That's what we like to hear.
So yeah, that's my White King done, which means I have everything built for the Undead Bretonians, or the version of the all.
I bet his car was
vampire
6 to 8 feet behind the other car.
Yeah, that's the alternative. So I have a silly list with like 18 White Kings, whatever they're called.
Oh, brilliant! So I previously, and again, this is another thing that this is probably my fault as opposed to blaming the software. I did have donation sounds turned off for the Tuesday podcast.
Yeah,
because it is, something that goes out, Spotify and all that. So try to not have the audio distractions. But I don't think you heard, but Ginger Steve just super chatted in with Betty's car was 6 to 8 feet behind the other car. Yes, 100%. That is the party line that we're sticking with. That's what we're going with, and we're going with it because it's true. This feels like when you see those bigger streamers that joke about tax fraud. And is my camera back? Oh, for Pete's sake! This is a bloody train wreck. Can I just give up and go home?
We're already at home.
Oh, yes, we are.
You're just frozen in a very ponderous position.
Yep. I'm having a think about my life.
Ah, now we can see. Oh, new GW Old World map. Is that behind you?
No, it's the old one. It's the one that says Trollwood. It's hard using 2 devices. Yeah, it's hard. It's multi-streaming, apparently. Like, I don't understand why doing this is so much more complex. Because I did a lot of streaming through Streamlabs just to YouTube. Anyway, we'll see. I thought the issue was there wasn't any distance behind the other car. That's slander. We don't co-sign that. I do not co-sign that. Anyway, so that's the white. Moving on to the third model, you've got an action shot of some painted vampire counts. Was this a club game?
We did a club game, Vampires on Vampires,
yeah.
Which I was very excited for. This is Ian, who was testing a list for the Fantasy Slam this weekend, so he's changed it up a bit following our game. And I mainly wanted to talk about this was because there was a particularly hilarious moment. There is a vortex in Dark Magic, is it Dark Magic, which gives an aura of impetuous around it. And I can't remember what the spell's called, but Ian, despite having my dispelling on a 5+, he managed to get it off with one of his level 1 casters.
Good.
Sticks it right in front of my army. I then fail to dispel it on my turn, which obviously gives my whole army impetuous. They're all fine, with the exception of the Mortis engine.
Which does have fly.
Which does have fly. You'll be users of the Mortis engine will be aware. And it is just in its maximum charge range away from Ian's big unit of Graveguard. You can see in the background the kind of yellowy coloured ones. And I roll a 6 on the charge. So the Mortis engine launches itself over the top of all of my infantry, all of the dogs that are there to defend it. And as anyone that uses the Mortis engine knows, the minute it gets in combat, you're in trouble because it is your general. So it is effectively keeping the rest of your army alive. And the last thing you want it to be is out in the front of all of your army, completely devoid of any assistance. But luckily, and this is a conversation Ian and I had afterwards, he's not going to change it, but his Graveguard only had great weapons that didn't have shields and hand weapons, which meant that they don't really get any saves against impact hits or any of my AP2 Lance hits. So I managed to rip apart enough Graveguard that I didn't lose the combat.
That's funny.
And everything else was able to catch up. So it was fine. But I was very scared for a moment there when my general that's entirely... the rest of the army entirely depends on decides to launch itself in front of everything else.
How did it go when I got into combat with your general last time we played?
Oh, come on. I made one mistake in that game. One mistake. I was beating you. I was going to win that game.
Yeah, I just needed to stop here. I think I need to ban someone called Clint Orris. I just sent a message. I'm going to go microwave a cup of tea. That is a war crime. And I don't want to see...
American Ed.
Well, that's not their fault. But they still should know better. So none of that. Absolutely none of that. And then let's just very briefly touch on the last image, which is a little, what do you call them? Pie chart? Where you've got all the...
chart.
Yeah.
This is the faction breakdown for the Saffron Fantasy Slam this weekend. We're going to do the pairings slightly later in the show, which we're very excited for. Go through some of our favourite lists as well. So if anyone doesn't know, Saffron Fantasy Slam is happening this weekend. It's my first GT in Essex, here in the east of England. So if you're driving, take care. Drive safe. Leave a safe distance from the vehicles in front of you as you reach your way to the Saffron Slam. But yeah, we try and create it's not as much of an issue in Old World as it potentially could be in 40k, but we try and make a atmosphere for the Saffron events that is particularly welcoming. I really want to focus on making newer players or players that feel less confident going to events welcome, and try and create an atmosphere in which they can feel a bit more comfortable coming to an event and getting involved in the community.
Yeah.
So I place less of a focus, or try and take the focus away from the competitive side. People still bring competitive lists, play to their best ability, all that sort of thing. But I really want to make sure people have the best experience, and the players know that if they're up against new players or players that are slightly less confident, that they're there actually to help those players through their games. And ultimately, over the course of the pairing system, by the end of the weekend, you end up playing really good players anyway. So you'll get the competitive experience you want towards the end if that's what you're going for. We've got some fun missions. We went through a few streams ago, didn't we? We went through the event pack and went through all the different missions we've come up with.
Yeah, I definitely remember what missions I'm going to be playing this weekend.
Definitely written your list in preparation for those as well, haven't you, Ed?
I have written a list specifically for Saffron Slam. I also didn't have... So I sent you a message. I was like, hey, I vaguely remember that there's something about not having to paint your models, because I was like, well, I could just bring the same Dark Elves as I always do, or I could bring something else. So I shot you a message, like, what's the painting requirements for this again? And then I remembered this is like one of the very few things that actually winds Lewis up. He's pretty easygoing, but there are a few things that will genuinely wind him up. I was like, oh, I'll open the pack. So I opened the pack and I had a look. I was like, oh, everything has to be base coated. Okay, cool. So I'm going to bring a not fully painted Warriors of Chaos list, but it is going to be different. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. However, you had a car crash. I had a bit of a car crash of a phone call earlier on. And that's maybe a harsh way to describe it, because the chap that I rang was lovely. So I need 2 dragons for my army. I've got one off to the left. Well, yeah, because I've submitted it and I can't change it. So I need 2 dragons. The first dragon I have, which is the Mantic Games. It's just called Dragon. It's from the D&D line. It's technically a Wyvern, but I've put it on some... I bought some yoga like blocks. I've got some... it's like a very dense foam. And I cut those up and I made like a tower of stone to balance it on top of. And all I've done with that model is put it on a base, put it on a tower of stone. I sprayed it with 3 different sprays, black, grey, and yellow.
Yeah.
Hit it with a heavy dry brush of white, and then I contrasted over the top, and I was like, this looks really good. So I'm very happy with how that started. I will do no more painting of that model specifically for the tournament, but I'm happy with how it's going. However, the second dragon, so the main thing, I got that for £18 on eBay. Which was, it's £25 direct from Mantic Games, but I was like, oh, I can get it cheaper. So that was good. I picked that up a couple of weeks ago. I found a company called like Archon Games or something like that do D&D dragons, and they cost £29, or, because they don't ship them direct in the UK, if you go to one of their third-party suppliers, you'll probably get a discount. So I'm paying less than 30 quid, including postage. But the company that I ordered it from is a smaller, less modern from the website company, and yeah, I just assumed that when I placed the order on the 13th it would be here by now, so I rang them up earlier today and he was like, oh yeah, no, I don't think we've had them in yet. So he said the delivery should come in tomorrow. He was lovely, he was very helpful. I'm not slandering them at all, but yeah, so hopefully that arrives Thursday.
And then shipping it out to you, or you going to be...
That's a good point. I should ring them in the morning, because there is a shop localish to me, and I won't say any more because I don't want to paint a certain company in a bad light, because they haven't really done anything wrong. But yeah, they are like relatively local to me, so I could probably go and pick one up. Anyway,
he'll be casting round on Friday looking for a dragon.
Well, Matthew says, want to stop by Hertz and borrow my dragon. Appreciate the offer. Worst comes to worst, I do have like a 3D printed dragon that I can just slap my dragon on. It doesn't have 2 heads, but it is a dragon. It's, a very fancy dragon. It looks more high elf, but in a pinch, it could
Stick
absolutely
some spikes
use.
on it. It'll look chaosy.
Yeah, something along those lines. So let's just get into then. Let's talk about the list that we picked for the Saffron Fantasy Slam.
Did you want to go through that faction breakdown first, Ed?
We can do. I'd kind of finished with it, but go ahead. Let me go back to it then.
Oh yes, obviously I hear and see you at different times. I was just going to point out, obviously, very good to see loads of Vampire Count players. Whoop, whoop. They're representing the legacy factions, and a surprising number of high elf players as well. I thought good percentage.
A lot of people excited. Obviously, not playing with the new rules. Just to be clear.
No, we're still using the old rules. But I wonder if it's people arriving. Obviously, new rules coming soon. Lots of hype around high elves. Lots of excitement around Tracy and stuff. I wonder if that's just people getting hyped and getting involved.
I'd assume so. Yeah.
And we have our pretty standard quarter of the field Bretonians. Boo hiss, all you Bretonian players.
Is there 4 of them?
Yes.
Oh god, I'd only spotted 3.
You can't escape them, I'm afraid.
No, I can't, and I'm concerned because my list doesn't really deal with dragons very well, so not happy about
that. But pleased to hear there's no Tomb Kings, so no mortuary cult shenanigans.
Yep.
So everyone that has brought dragons doesn't need to worry about the 500,000 archers shooting at them.
No, just the 4 different heroic killing blow Bretonians.
Just dodge those Pegasuses. Yeah. And sad to see we're running out of No Skaven Lizardman. Even though the world's best Lizardman player, Pip, is coming. They're bringing the vampires instead, so even Pip's given up.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, he was talking about. I think part of the because I talked a bit fairly regularly. Part of the decision making there was obviously Saffron is on slightly smaller board sizes, and when you're playing Lizardman, you need the space for the skink cloud. So I think he thought it was a perfect time to bust out the vampire counts that he's been playing around with.
Yeah.
Roland's doing great advertising for Element Games for the High Elf Dragon, only £38 apparently. I have bought one of them, but while you're 100% right, and if you haven't already, you should go and buy some High Elves from Element Games using the link in the description below. They don't release for 2 weeks, or like a week and a half at this point, so it wouldn't arrive in time for Saffron Slam. Don't worry, I will be playing High Elves by the time April comes around.
Excellent stuff. Let's look at this, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, back to the list. So if we start off with, look at what we've got here. Anything that you want to comment on? Did you end up with 18 players? Was it 17?
We got
players?
18 in the end. Yeah, I'm jumped in as a TO there to make up the even numbers, but yeah, we're on 18.
If someone decided right now watching this that they've somehow missed the advertising I've done for this, and they wanted to submit a late request to play, would you let that slide if people wanted to?
Absolutely fine. Got no problem with that at all.
So if you want to buy a ticket, you can go to elmominiatures.com, or you can Google Saffron Slam or Elmo Miniatures, find it. There are still tickets available, even though we're going to do the pairings. Get in, slide in late. We'll make something work for you.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
Yeah, part of the casual vibe that Lewis is going for, and also give him more money. He does a good job.
Yeah, more money. Also, the more the merrier, really. It's
hell yeah.
Laugh,
yeah.
So looking forward to it.
You might get to play against Lewis, or you might have to play against me.
There's two different outcomes there.
Yeah. Normally I would have swapped that round, but you have been in a car crash, so
I need to clip that and bring that back later.
Yeah.
No, I have changed the vampire list around, so it's less oppressive now. I've got enough painted that I can do all infantry basically. Make a really bad vampire counts list, so anyone playing against me gets a chance to kill loads of skeletons.
Why not just play them as Bretonians? Have you got the undead Bretts ready to go?
They're built, but they're not painted. So,
you could spray them.
I could spray them.
That's the requirement for your paint scheme at this.
But it is. But as the TO, I feel like I should be definitely.
I respect that. You could, and I'm not pressuring you into doing this. I'll wait until you've got your faculties back fully before you commit to anything. But you could bring both and ask your opponent what they wanted to play against if
what they'd prefer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or you could just say, screw it, you're playing against a horde of undead. Either are options.
And if I don't put the Mortis Engineer, don't put any dragons in, it's all good. You can literally just run into skeletons and see how many you can slaughter.
Yeah,
which is always good fun.
I missed something. Ultimate Funk says, I need to escape them, referring to Bretonians. I've brought dragons. Can we fix the draw so I don't have to play one? And then says, I'm sure that's a really strong list. Must be. That guy's a top player. And probably handsome, charismatic, eloquent, graceful, etc. as well. So, yeah, fair play.
Still digging, Dave. Come on. Dig up. Come on.
Dave Gresham. I think I might have picked out Dave's list to look at. I don't want to make any promises because it might have been a different High Elf list. But we'll start off with you because you wanted to talk about the vampire lists, I believe. Yeah. Is that correct? Do you want us to just go through alphabetically and start off with Arthur's list? Is that?
Yeah, we'll do. And what I've noticed as well is I'm going to go through 3 vampire lists here. Each vampire list is totally different. So there's similar themes, but I mean they don't all have Mortis Engine. They don't all have Blood Knights. So like there's 3 different ways to run vampires, and I think reading all those lists, I think all 3 are perfectly viable.
Sure.
And I think if we're looking at the legacy factions as a kind of wider concept, i.e. Games Workshop create them for the factions they're not going to focus on, and then just leave you for an addition. You compare the vampire count one to say Lizardmen one, where by the looks of it, there's probably one way of playing Lizardmen any kind of reliably at an event.
I think it's about half a way.
Yeah, you just compare the two, and you think, well, if all the legacy factions had got a book similar to the vampire counts, I think some of the discussions around the viability of legacy factions just wouldn't happen because vampire counts have got exactly the same options really that even Arcane Journal armies.
So what we'd be getting is discussions going, legacy factions are OP, should they be banned from tournament play? Like you know it to be true. Search your heart.
I have faith in the community. That's not what they say.
I don't.
Because beyond after the Scream list was dealt with, all these vampire lists, they're good, they're strong, but they're not most of the vampire lists will get turned over by Bretonnians because they're just not fast enough or able to dish out as much damage as you'd like, especially to those nasty characters that can just fly past you and hit your juicy stuff. So I think they have some issues in the meta, but actually because you can run 3 different styles of list, if you're a vampire count player, you can happily sit on that for the next 2 or 3 years, however long this edition is going to last, and quite spend your time running loads of different vampire lists, and you never have to deviate away from them. Although I guess that would mean the Sigmar part of Games Workshop would earn loads of money from all the Soul Blight Gravelords being purchased, but
the Sigma bit.
But yeah, so let's do Arthur. I'm just not even going to entertain that.
That's fine.
I'm just going to go straight into Arthur's list and pretend I didn't hear it. Arthur is taking a Scream list, I think, here. 5 Screams in the list: Mortis Engine, 2 Banshees, and 2 Terrorgeists. Now, all so far so standard for a competitive vampire list. You would normally then, I think, from the ones I've seen, see them be accompanied by just massive piles of zombies, just because your necromancers can res them up and just go for huge units.
Sure.
But Arthur has gone for a huge brick of 33 ghouls in with the BSB, and I'm assuming this is just going to run fast forwards and make a mess, either in skirmish or in a block, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing.
Well, that's what I was just about to check. Can ghouls go into a block? Let's have a look here.
I'm pretty sure they've got open order.
Yeah, it'd kind of suck if they didn't, if you're going that big of a unit. Crypt ghouls, open order, or skirmish. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't considered the trickiness with making them skirmishers in terms of getting charged or charging, getting them to rank up. But I think it would be quite fun to see a big unit of skirmishers like that.
Yeah.
Because it provides lots of screen for your banshees and stuff like that. You'd be pretty confident that you can screen out a large area. But yeah, you wouldn't want to just lose them all in someone charging you on one end.
Yeah, I charged with a unit of 10 infantry with movement 5 and lost 6 of them. So that felt not great. But yes, Crypt Ghouls, very good. I do like Crypt Ghouls. I saw someone talking on the Team England Discord about the just a unit with 10-inch move, reserve moving. So I'm not 100% sure what combination of bullshit they pulled to get that off there. But good stuff. It's pretty fast.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be a cool list. Then we go across to Ian Paynton's list. Now, Ian is the guy I played last week. So we've made some changes. We've dropped the Abyssal Terror and one of the dragons.
Okay.
And we've replaced him with the Lone Ranger Ghoul King. This is one of my favourite builds. Although he's not wearing the Cloak of Etherealness. So I'm going to assume they're just going to try and cast a spell on the Ghoul King. But he's sitting there with his Ogre Blade, ready on his own to go and run out and cut someone in half.
I don't think there's anything stopping him from joining the Graveguard, is there?
No, he could join the Graveguard. But when I've seen them use the Ghoul, when I've seen this Ghoul King being used like that, he's normally out on his own as a little mini missile.
But he normally has the fly item, like the vampiric power that gives him fly. So
yes, that's why. Yeah, there's one that there's a cloak that gives him ethereal as well.
Yeah, he's capped at
fly as well, isn't it?
Capped at 75 points magic items. So the Ogre Blade takes up most of it.
Okay, that's restricting it slightly.
What's it called? Is it Flying Horror? It's literally called Flying Horror, which gives him fly 10. So I'm interested that he didn't go with that. Maybe the plan is just to cast the Spectral Steed on him.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll aim for there. Because he's got the level 4 Necromancer sitting on a dragon, which I do like seeing Necromancer on a dragon. I have a double Necromancer dragon list. Very expensive way of housing your Necromancer, but it does look quite cool.
Sure.
And Ian is sticking with the level 1 Necromancers as well, which spell casting, if you're playing against me, is highly effective. I imagine against most opponents that they won't get too many spells off, but they will add lots of rezzing in, which combines nicely with the Corpse Cart. He did have 2 Corpse Carts against me, but it looks like he had to free up some points to get the Blood Knights in.
Sure.
Because effectively, if you're thinking about your dragons or your units, the Necromancer just passes that leadership test with a reroll because it's near the BSB, and Dragon regains a wound. But because it's near the Corpse Cart, and if there's 2 of them especially, you roll, and on a 4+, you get another wound back. So you could effectively be in a position where level 1 Necromancer regains 3 wounds on your dragon. in that situation, which means that your dragons can advance up with your infantry, taking cannon fire or whatever else is being thrown at them, and be pretty reliable in just if you cannon does 5 wounds to the dragon in one turn, they're just basically almost guaranteed to get them back the next turn. So it makes it incredibly difficult to actually kill these units if you can't finish them in one turn. So if you can't get +10 on your combat res, or you can't put 4 cannons into them or whatever, so you can be pretty confident those dragons are going to reach combat or reach the end of the game in pretty good condition.
Sure.
He's obviously got big block of Graveguard. As I say, the debate in my mind about whether you take great weapons or shields continues, but he's gone with great weapons. Big block of zombies as well, which tends to sit sort of near the back somewhere just to kind of stop people flying past him.
Just on the Graveguard, he hasn't gone for the regen banner. Is it Drakenhof banner that gives you +1 to regen?
Is it not on the? Is it on the BSB?
It's not on anyone, which is curious.
Indeed. Well, so this is the concern I've always had with the Graveguards. If you take the great weapons, they're just sitting on a 5-up save.
Yeah.
And the initiative's crap, so you just never get to fight with them.
I don't mind that if you've got the 5-up regen. I think between a 5-up armor, 5-up regen, against a lot of targets, if you go wide enough, you'll get a good amount of attacks in.
Yeah.
But this is maybe not the plan. Be curious to see how that pans out.
See how play. Is the war banner in there? I can't quite read it.
It is, yeah.
So, so at least he's got the combat res to boost from there, and then obviously you add the corpse cart in as well. What they're really useful for is just not losing wounds to unstable.
Sure.
So it just gives out an aura of -1 to the unstable. So you just when you're thinking about dragons, when you're thinking about infantry units, that's why I really actually like. I didn't realize he was going to get rid of the second one, but I really like the second one in there because effectively you need to beat the dragon by at least 3 on the combat res before it loses any wounds. Well, actually no, because the dragons will be in Indomitable 1. You've got to beat the dragon by at least 4 on the combat res.
Remember, Indomitable doesn't stack.
It does stack with course carts.
Sure, but not with itself. Not with the BSB.
So you'd have Indomitable 1 plus 2 corpse carts as a minimum if you rolled a 1 on the BSB.
Sure.
And if you just take your BSB instead, and you could in theory get to a position where they've got to beat you by 6 before you're losing any models.
Just on the basis of rolling a 3 on
3 plus the 2 corpse carts.
Sure.
So that just does, if you're kind of building into the undead stuff that just won't die.
Yeah,
that's a very good way of doing it. So yeah, and he's now added some Blood Knights in as well. After my Blood Knights made a right mess of most of his infantry and a couple of his characters in the previous game, because once they get in, if they keep getting the charge and they keep getting to fight before you, they will just rinse whatever they hit. So that's quite nice. And then last but not least, we have Pip's list. Pip has gone down the mounted route. Got the Mortis engine, so the Mortis engine makes a reappearance here. Then he's got level 3 Vampire with the Sword of Kings and Illusion. So going for Spectral Doppelganger there, I imagine.
Oh, that's bold. Not taking... so just dry rolling 3 spells. That is... You're a braver man than me. 50% of the games you're going to get it. The problem is, Pip's pretty good. So I feel like there's a decent chance that I end up playing against Pip. And if we do play against each other, that is going to be the game, maybe the only game that he manages to roll
gets it off
and get the actually get Spectral Doppelganger. So Sword of Kings, for those of you at home who don't know what it does, it's a 55-point magic item. Strength +1, AP -1, Killing Blow, but you Killing Blow on a 5 or a 6. So I guess I'm not super concerned, given that I've got Dragon. But I do have infantry and characters as well. So, yeah.
Yes. So he's put that Vampire on a Nightmare. So I'm going to assume that's going to join the Blood Knights, which is cool. Maneuverability not to get charged. The issue I've had with a Vampire trying to put a decent weapon on it is that if you get charged and it's just on foot or on a horse, it'll just die.
Yeah.
Because they only have 3 wounds. So... and not particularly amazing saves, so it needs to go on. In my opinion, needs to go on a dragon for it to have a decent chance of doing anything. But then you are spending 500 points on it.
Okay, so now that you've pointed out that it's on a horse, I feel like Illusion is more for Glittering Robe because there's 6 Blood Knights that already have the 5-up regen. They start with a 6-up regen, so it gives them a 5-up regen.
Yeah,
and giving them -1 to hit as well gives them a good chunk of survivability as well.
Definitely. So Glittering Robe's the one. Okay, well that's interesting. And then just hope that you get Spectral Doppelganger.
Yeah. That's a you want it, but it's not the end of the world if you don't get it, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool.
Then he's got White Lord on a horse as well. It's on a skeletal steed, so you won't want to be putting it with the Blood Knights because you lose counter charge. But it would work with the Black Knights, which are in the core section there. So that's a really cool list. I like that. A few zombies in there as well, just thrown in for extra fun times. I assume just to keep the Mortis Engine alive. I'll be really interested to see how he plays this in terms of positioning, because the Blood Knights and the Black Knights are just going to get ahead of the Mortis Engine. So is he just going to keep it all in the block and keep moving it slowly? Or is it just full send everything forwards and kind of I do wonder what the zombies are doing at that point, because they're just going to get behind.
Sure.
So yeah, looking forward to watching Pip play this. When I've been looking at my all mounted list, I've kind of foregone the Mortis Engine to fit in, to put necromancer on horses and potentially a dragon, rather than the Mortis Engine, just to keep up. But to be honest, the Mortis Engine with initiative buffs, with the movement buffs, with the casting buffs, it's just really hard not to take in a list.
Sure.
So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this goes.
Perfect. All right. It's easier to keep the necromancers alive if they're on a horse in this sort of list. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays. Well, I'm sure Pip is pretty solid at the game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this one plays. I just want to point out we had a great sort of Abbott and Costello moment in chat. Anthony said, sorry, what's the name of the site that gives all the tournament stats, like win rate per race, top players and all that stuff? And that Rabacid replies, Old World Rankings. Anthony says, yes, sir, for the Old World Rankings. And it's funny because that is the name of the website. So I was trying to avoid having a giggle saying that. Just a great bit of a nice interaction, but also very funny. So. Let's move on to mine. And it looks like I've got 4. Have I got 4? I'm doing 4. I'm just going to run through them slightly more quickly then. Because I did have 4 that I wanted to go with, and I guess I didn't do the thinking to, narrow it down to 3. So we'll go with that. David Gresham is playing a high elf list that I quite liked. So this is a prince, and first of all, prince on a dragon. High elves love the prince and dragon. That's not changing with the new rules. Still very good. And he's gone for the full 2-up save, full defenses. Equipped him with a biting blade as well, which is a very cheap item. So you've got 4 attacks at strength 2, which is fine.
Yep.
I value the attacks more than anything else. Oh, this is Ultimate Funk. Hell yeah.
It is.
Perfect. I did say I might have picked his out. But yeah, this is a really tanky prince who doesn't hit quite as hard, but he does have the best dragon in the game. So there is a good argument to be made for just going for, defenses on the prince and letting the dragon do the work. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. There's an Archmage with the Sword of Heoth. I absolutely love going for a character upgraded to have the Sword of Heoth because it is high magic, but it's still 2 attacks that hit pretty hard, and that's going to be joined to the unit of 23 Sword Masters.
Hell yeah.
They've got the Law Master's Cloak for the 4-up board. They've got an Archmage in there who's got, the ability to cast, because they've got Lore Familiar, cast the Walk Between Worlds to give them a reserve move and Ethereal. So in theory, this unit is immune to damage outside of Warriors of Chaos. As the only Warriors of Chaos player at the event, I feel like I might be in an okay position to deal with him. So that's always reassuring. And also, so my list we're not necessarily talking about. My list has 2 Battle Magic casters that can join a unit of Chaos Knights. So if I get the charge into that unit, I can just double Hammer Hand. And David, unfortunately, will have to Fated dispel those Hammer Hands, which is always nice.
Always a risk.
Yeah, well, it works pretty well up until it doesn't. Everyone has a plan up until they get punched in the mouth. Is the yeah. But there's not many armies that can deal with an ethereal block. So oh crap, another army to avoid. It's okay. I'm the only one with magic weapons across the board, so you're probably fine.
You'll be right. Dave's a local player, so Dave is one of our first games of Old World was against Dave, and we discovered the power of terror in that particular matchup where he had this big horrible block with ethereal.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you haven't got a magic weapon; it just runs off the board without having to take any damage whatsoever. So yes, it was. Dave was like, "Oh, I guess that's how this game works then." I don't know how many points that is, but that's a lot.
That's pretty rough. There's also a BSB Noble and has the Armor of Calidor for a ward save, but no actual upgraded standard there. 5 Illyrian Reavers for reasons, 9 Silver Helms fully upgraded with the War Banner, which I do like, a few units of Elven Archers just for drops, and then 8 Sis of Avalon with a Ruby Ring of Ruin and a Great Eagle. This feels like a pretty solid list, honestly, for prior to the Arcane Journal coming out. You've got to put something in core. This is a pretty efficient way of building it, so I do like that one there. Next up, we've got Tom's list. I think Tom was at the RTT that I came to, because I believe I saw this specific list, and I could be wrong, but it is Chaos Dwarfs, and it's always nice to see Chaos Dwarfs, and they do deal with the meta in a sort of like side-on approach in ways that other armies don't. And what do I mean by that? Well, so they've got a Black Orc who can give you -2 to hit him. I believe that's the... Yeah. Oh, there's a slight issue here. Dead Hard Armor, I believe, is infantry and cavalry only, so that might need to be looked at. But I will double check off stream. We can confirm that one later.
Double check, and I'll let him know, because I've only reviewed 1 or 2 of these. I've not had a chance to go through all of them. So if we find anything on stream, then you're getting called out live.
Yeah, no, I do. So this is the one that I wasn't going to talk about on stream. I was going to just talk about the other 3, and then I left this open to remind me to tell you. But here we are. Sorry, Tom. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll double check. Anyway, so we've got a really tanky toughness 7, 5-up, 5-up Sorcerer Prophet with Demonology. Very solid. Only Ginger Steve confirms it's infantry and cavalry only. Thank you very much. Do appreciate that.
Steve, much appreciated.
Yeah, obviously he's on a chariot, which is unfortunately neither of the 2. Where was I? Yes, then we've got a potentially tanky war boss. Dead Artist chariot only. Okay, cool, sweet. That's what I was missing. I thought it was just those 2. In that case, this is a fantastic build, and you're a genius, Tom. So it's going to be a T6 Black Orc Boar Chariot, which is super tanky with, a 2-up armor save here.
It does work on chariots, right?
It does work, and whoever brought it up in the first place is wrong and a fool. I think it was you.
I'm emailing myself.
Yeah. Cool. Then we've got the unit of Black Orcs you have to run, the unit of Infernal Guard you have to run, 10 Hobgoblin Cutthroats because they're cheap, and then double Iron Demon. So there is 3 units in here that are T7, and then there's also the Chariot, which is T6. And it's just a beefy list with, the Iron Demons do a surprising amount of shooting. And yeah, just like, there's nothing in here that's easy to pick off. And if you rely on hitting with your attacks, you're going to be a little bit sad, because a lot of stuff you attack is going to be -1 or -2 to hit. Third up, we had Bretonnians, and I thought we should talk about Bretts because there's 4 of them. So let's talk about the Exiles.
Can't ignore it any longer.
This list is Edward did pretty well. Did he? Am I right in thinking that he won the first Saffron RTT?
RTT, yes.
Yes.
Kind of creamed everybody. So I think, is this potentially we're taking a slightly more chilled list this time around? I think, or it might not be. I can't remember
at all.
What
are you talking about? This is a no. Well, no, it's got some tweaks in it. I think it's interesting, but it's a very good list. So this is Exiles, which means down at the bottom. Let's just confirm. Oh yes, there's double cannons, so good start here. And then into characters, we've got a Baron with the Frontier Axe, the Gauntlet of the Duel, Virtual Knightly Temper, Lucky Heirloom. Basically, this means you've got the 5 to 7 attacks, rerolling your hits, Strength 6, AP 3, flat 2 damage or D3 damage. Flat 2, I believe, for the Frontier Axe. So just the really solid character. Nothing different here. Then we've got this Baron, who has the Virtue of Heroism, which is the Killing Blow and Monster Slayer, with triple Lucky Heirlooms. So you get to reroll 3 failed hit, or wound, or armor, or ward saves per turn. That's pretty good. If your entire game plan is to Killing Blow, this is pretty good. You could only reroll fails, though. I did double check this the other day. So if your opponent rolls 4 to 5s to wound, they don't get to reroll to fish for wounds. So just keep that in mind. If they wound but don't Killing Blow you, you're very lucky because they have no way of rerolling. But yeah, this is pretty likely to kill a dragon, which concerns me because I have 2 of them. Then we've got a Paladin with BSB, Gauntlet of the Duel, Falconhorn, because Falconhorn real good, so this is going to be very difficult. This is a list that should beat most dragon lists, realistically.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Outcast Wizard as well, level 3, Ruby Ring of Ruin, Lore Familiar Dark Magic. So not only can this unit here, the the Knightly Temper character, get rerolls, he can cast the Battle Lust on the other unit, the Pegasus Knight unit with the Virtue of Heroism caster in, so it just gets all of the rerolls all of the time. So this is probably going to kill multiple dragons. 7 Knights of the Realm, just because you have to take some sort of knights. 30 Yeomen, full command there, which I do like. I am a big fan of the Yeoman bricks because they're quite hard to shift. It takes a long time to get through them. Some Peasant Bowmen, 21 with stakes, which I am not as sure what the use of them is, but maybe they just stand on a hill. And then 5 Mounted Yeomen, which is obviously where the Outcast Wizard is bunkered, so it gives them a little bit of defense. Which is always good. And then there's only 3 Pegasus Knights with the Banner of Shalons, so turns off, stand and shoot. Only 3 Pegasus Knights is the downside of this list, because if you are bringing a lot of shooting, you might be able to just say, okay, cool, I'm going to kill your characters and Pegasus Knights before they get to me. There's no way for them to, if you're running 2 units of like a 5 and a 3 and you attach your characters to 5, you can interlink them so you're taking penalties to be shot at.
Yeah.
In this case, it's just a case of, it's not...
Pick them off and then try and get the characters, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a pretty spicy list, and it's probably my pick for the list that's most likely to win.
You'll be pleased to hear on that note, Ed has got a childcare clash on Saturday, so he's going to miss the first couple of games.
Oh, okay.
He will not be in contention to win the event, I'm afraid, unless somehow everybody else gets loads of draws.
Yeah. So he's taking 2 0s and then playing from like round 3
Yeah, he's going to take
onwards.
some losses at the start and then
and
then join afterwards. So when I do the pairings, I'll have to switch him to play me in the first round. So
sure. So you don't have to play basically until round 3, unless someone buys some tickets, heads to Elmo Miniatures, Saffron Slam. You can still sneak in if you want to come and play in Saffron Walden this weekend.
Now you can go to the list as well. You can counter.
You can counter, and you don't even have to have a fully painted list. All you have to do is have a fully base coated, fully built list.
Get it sprayed. That's all you got to do. You know
Absolutely.
How much I love spray paint.
Nick's here as well, so let's talk about Nick's list. And this is a Grand Army list with a... It says Troll here. I'm not sure why it says Troll. Which... Oh, I see. They've all been named. I love that people do it. And this is just... Your list happens to be the one that I'm looking at. But when I'm passing lists, like especially for like Fix My List, when people name their units, it takes me twice as long to read everything.
Work out what it is.
Yeah. So as evidenced by going, it says Troll. What's going on? You can use Ogdra's model. That makes a lot of sense. It is a nice model. I do like it. So we've got an Elementalism caster here with a Lore Familiar. Interesting. I wonder what's going to happen there. We've got a big boss with the Wallopers One Hit Wonder and a BSB to give some rerolls for leadership. We've got a level 4 wizard, which is a Night Goblin with War Magic and Idol of Gork. We've got the Night Goblin Odd Gob. So we're up to triple caster here. Glowy Green Amulet. So if you try to cast spells against that unit, probably ain't going to happen. Fungus Wine to give the unit immune to psychology on both of them. It's a once per game and it's on a leadership test, but you got 2. And then we've got a Squig Goblin War Boss as well with a Ruby Ring of Ruin, which is interesting. This is not necessarily a unit I have seen, so I'm curious to see how that plays out. And then in core, 61 Night Goblins with the Spider Banner in full command and triple Night Fanatics. Oh dear. And then you've got 3 units of 30 Night Goblins as well with Fanatics.
You want Linehammer, Ed? You've got Linehammer.
This isn't Linehammer. Everything's going to be ranked up. There's 7 Night Goblin Squig Hoppers as well, and then double Doom Diver. So this is going to be pretty nasty. This is a list that can really scare those Bretonnian players away. So there's going to be some interesting rock, paper, scissors going on. Because this list definitely beats the Bretonnians. The things that... It definitely can beat the dragons. But it depends how the dragon player plays. So we'll see. I'm curious to see how this one goes. But I think
it's a lot of fanatics to dodge, isn't it? So
given there's no Tomb Kings, I feel like this is given that Edward's not here until round 3. Maybe this is my vote for the army to win. It's a lot of fanatics there. But yeah, that is all of the lists that we have got. Anything else that you wanted to cover for Saffron Slam before we move on?
I was going to do the pairings, if we're ready.
Oh, I guess we could. Yeah, why not, eh?
Find out who you're playing.
Yes.
As I say, I'm going to start tournaments. For anyone that's coming this weekend, that is that's watching, give me 2 seconds whilst I fix the pairing so Ed gets a favourable one.
I feel like if you were going to fix the pairings, you would do it so that I get the worst pairing round one.
Indeed. Right, let's make sure Ed goes into the Night Goblins. Right, I need to swap Pip with Ed Adlard. There we go. Right, so that should now work, I think. Yes, that is Ed, who can't make it, playing me in round one, which is good. Send pairings notifications to anybody at BCP who is playing in the event. Should now just had a ping on their phone to say that they are they're up and running.
All right, moment of
Mr.
truth.
Walker?
What have we got? Okay, so we've got Nicholas is playing into a High Elf list. It does have a dragon. Pip is playing into one of the Bretonian lists. Very good.
Yep.
David playing into vampire counts. Yeah, that was the Scream list, wasn't it? You said no. This was the Lord on a dragon.
Ian was the necromancer on a dragon with the Ghoul King and the with the Overblade. So that's cool. That's a cool matchup.
Dave was asking for vampire counts, so this might be might be good. I am playing into one of the High Elf lists. Let's just have a quick look here. So we've got a triple obsidian lodestone. You love to see it. So, I genuinely do. I really like seeing this on casters. So we've got a level 4 high magic caster, probably in a unit of swordmasters. Very cool. Then we've got some dragon princes, some spearmen, some reavers, some silver helms, a lot of archers. Okay. We've got a sort of here general, a noble. Okay, not even the BSB, just there. And we've got a noble on a dragon. This is a cool list. Double caster. Ogre Blade illusion caster. Very nice. So that's going to go in. I guess probably I'd put it with the Silver Helms, but it could go with...
Is he on
it's Blood of Caledor. It's going with the Dragon Princes because it's impetuous. Yeah, and it's pretty tanky, like, for an Archmage. So it's got a 3-up armor save from the Full Plate and the Barded Steed, and then a 6-up ward save as well. And then does only know 5 spells. So there is a risk that... Jim's not going to roll. We'll see. Rick has got Dark Elves into Chaos Dwarves, Empire into Vampire Counts, and then Demons into Bretonians as well. Very nice.
We'll have to get some photos of that demon list. I've seen some advanced shots that were sent to me for just checking WYSIWYG.
Oh, yeah.
Joe's demons list is amazing. It's all Slanesh models, but mixing in some of the other demons. So he's got like a really cool like Khorne Juggernaut conversion using Slanesh models, where it's like this demonette like whipping this bigger demon thing. So there's some really cool models there, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing in person. So that will be a cool one to look at.
Cool. All right, sweet. So interesting there. I think it is time to move on to the list building portion of the show. And you said you had a few ideas that you wanted to talk about in terms of a Seaguard High Elf list.
Yes.
Which is good, because I haven't really thought about Seaguard all that much.
No, I've seen lots of chat about the Lions, which is great. They look really cool, and that's all great. But I really do like the Seaguard, so I'm hoping I have a concept in mind, Ed, and I want you to use your insight. Honestly, people watching this and listening to this, how you can read that Goblin list or that Chaos Dwarf list and know exactly what all the magic items are. I can only do that with Vampire Counts, and that's because I've consistently played them every week or every other week for a year. I don't know how you do it with just every single army. So I'm hoping I could just throw a concept at you.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
And we go from there. So what I would like is I want 2, because make infantry great again, I want to see 2 big blocks of Seaguard.
Okay, how big are we talking?
I was thinking 30, but I can happy to play around with that.
Well, let's start off with 30.
Because I think over the course of... I've been watching your High Elf Week videos, and I think there might be enough buffs amongst the spells, the items, the characters, and the standards that you can get 2 pretty resilient, pretty movable Seaguard lists in there.
Interesting.
Obviously, you get 1 per 1,000 points, so both of them can get drilled for free, so they can start messing around even more with their...
They absolutely can.
Ranks, etc.
Yep.
To try and maximize the shooting going into combat. So I'm hoping you might be able to find me enough points in items and characters to make them both resilient, or resilient enough. Maybe not super Death Star in terms of if you put all those buffs on one unit, but enough that you'd be quite comfortable running those in a in a list.
So you said you had an idea for the list. Just to check, is this the idea for the list?
This is the start of the list.
Okay. Did you have anything else to add to it, or is this?
I'd quite like. So I've got hammer and anvil in my mind, basically, because you can definitely do it with vampire counts and you can do it with undead infantry.
Yeah.
I'd quite like to see if we can do it with infantry that are still warm, if you know what I mean. They haven't felt the cold embrace of death yet, so that would be quite nice. So I'd like a hammer as well. Now, my instant thought is, I mean, you can throw the dragons in, but yeah, I don't. You can't get the best dragon, can you? You can only get the mid dragons. So
you can only get the bottom dragon, the sun.
The bottom dragon, yeah. Sorry. So I wondered if you could get something good in one of the cavalry options, or even one of the chariot options.
So you'll be pleased to see there are no cavalry options apart from Illyrian Reavers, which is not the punch that you want.
They're not going to be enough, are they?
No. Okay, cool. So let's start out by thinking about what we're going to do to buff these up. So I think, inarguably, we're going to start off with a BSB. And you said you wanted them to be tough, so let's go with the Banner of Resilience. Obviously,
the Banner of Resilience on.
I'm a big fan of the Banner of Resilience. But we'll start off with the Banner of Resilience, and I always get a little bit nervous when I've got a valuable BSB that isn't super tanky. So let's just give them the Banner of Calidor and the Seed of Rebirth, and then a shield as well. And that gets them to a 3 up, 5 up, 5 up, which is pretty tanky, even though they do only have 2 wounds. So it means that they're not going to... Yeah, they're not going to fall over immediately. They'll die as soon as, anything like serious, like a Dragon Lord, puts their attacks into them, but you can challenge them out, so that gives you some options.
Yes, gives you some options. At least buys you a turn, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that gets 1 in there. I think if you're running Seaguard as well, the obvious thing to do is Aisha Vess. Ishaya Vess, I should say. So she is, I want to say leadership 9. We'll just whack her as the general for now. And the main reason we're doing it is for precision strikes. And that gives all of your attacks for a unit that she joins, which is Seaguard, AP 1. So that's bows and for the melee attacks as well. And these are
points as well. That seems quite reasonably priced.
I think she could be cheaper, honestly. She could be have a less impressive stat line. If she was 100 points, or if the Seaguard Garrison Commander had that effect, I think people would be a lot more excited about this detachment.
Right.
But it's not the end of the world. Our brains are just broken because we're looking at 500-point lords. And they're 170 points compared to that. Well, yes, I would like to give AP 1 to one of my units.
So, it works on their bows as well, does it?
It's all of their attacks, yeah. Which is, I think, people are down it. I think it's pretty interesting. So what we are going to go with is we're going to give one of the units the Razor Standard, and this will be the unit that Ishaya doesn't join. So one unit's AP 1 and one unit has Armor Bane 2, because you want to have both units be reasonably decent.
Have some output, yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, if you just went for one unit with all of the upgrades, you wouldn't really get anywhere. So I think the Razor Standard is the unit that we give the Banner of Resilience, and then the other unit will give Ishaya Vess, the one with the AP, because they're a little bit better in combat, and we'll start them out with a War Banner as well. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So get that combat res up,
yeah. So I think what we want to pair these with, we could put a Seaguard Garrison Commander in with a Ishaya Vess, because it gives the unit that it's attached to evasive and fire and flee. I don't know that I super care about either of those rules for the Lothern Seaguard, if we're being, realistic. So
you do, because you want them to take a charge, don't you?
Exactly, yeah. So what I'm thinking, you said you wanted to have some sort of defences. Existence says need a BSB. Yeah, we've got the Seaguard Garrison Commander. That's the BSB there, with the Banner of Resilience. I think, let's just see if we can fit... We might have to play around with the points, but can we fit 2 Griffins in? Is that something that we can do?
So you use them as your hammer.
Yeah, and they're not the hammeriest hammers that ever hammered, but...
Did they warhammer, though? Because that's what we're here for.
They are pretty cheap. So the main issue is that you only start out with heavy armor. So we're going to get to a 4-up armor save. So they... Oh, hold on. No, I think we can put nobles in. Yeah, okay. So as nice it would be to have the named ones, I've walked back on thinking that the Garrison Commander is the best version of this. I actually think I much prefer having the... let's go Lance, because we're really leaning on the fact that we've got the armor here. So let's go with the Griffin, and let's give them both...
Take the full plate.
Yeah, we'll give them a charm shield. Just make sure I've taken that shield off there. and then we'll go with a Seed of Rebirth. And that is a super cheap package. It's a 3-up save with a single 5-up ward and then an always-on 5-up regen. So 2 of those. That gives us 108 points to play around with, which is super, super doable. So I think let's just...
Is it worth getting a caster in? I know it can only be level 3, but...
Oh, God, we haven't even got a caster yet. Like, for some reason, I was like, oh, yeah, that we've got our caster here. Yeah, I think we can kind of skate by on keeping these 2 cheap. Let's make the Garrison Commander cheaper. Let's see how we can shave points here. Let's drop the Armor of Caledor, which is good, but we're going to give it... maybe just the Charmed Shield. We just go Heavy Armor, Charmed Shield, because we need to shave some points. Because we do want to get a level 3 in, which is going to be over points. And then we want to give them... honestly, I think Elementalism makes the most sense here.
Yeah, I mean, are we thinking we can use the caster to buff the resilience of that second Sea Guard unit that doesn't currently have the regen and things like that? Yeah.
So it's flexible in that you can give them a 5-up ward save to one of the units, and it's not range self, so you can't cast it into combat, which is the downside. But what you can do is you can cast it on a unit just in general. So you'll give them, you'll mean, because they're low linear obstacle, you'll give them the ability to strikes first, which is not terrible. You know, they'll do a little bit of damage as long as it's not a dragon. And the ward save's really nice. It also gives us the opportunity to pick up travel mystical pathways, because as much as you want the infantry to be maneuverable, they are still just infantry, even though they have special rules around it. So TMP is a nice sort of get out of jail free card. And then the obvious third spell that we're going to pick up is Plague of Rust, which is a long range hex. And the reason we're picking that up is we're going to be trying to debuff enemy units. So that AP1 or Armor Bane 2 is stacked on top of an extra AP2. And at that point, you can start to kill stuff. So we're 58 points over. So we need to make some cuts. And that might mean that we drop one of the nobles. It would probably be better to have one really good noble than to have 2.
Yeah, is there a better magic item that you can give a magic weapon with? Can you get Monster Slayer or can you get Killing Blow?
So you could go... That is an option. I don't think that's a good option because a noble only has 3 attacks. So if you've got 3 attacks, you're going to be hitting the dragon on 4s. I think it's pretty unlikely that you'll get that off. So what I would recommend is that we maybe go... give them a shield, take the charm shield off, because we're going to give them the dragon helm to get them up to a 2-up armor save. We probably don't need to worry about an opal amulet. And we just go with Talisman of Protection. Where is that? Oh, no, we can't do the dragon helm as well, can we? I forgot he only has 50 points. Tell you what we can do, actually. If we're not going for 2, let's go for the Seaguard Garrison Commander. We will go for the Griffin, and because they've got 75 points, so we can go Armor of Caledor, which is the full plate, which they normally don't have access to. Gives them a 5-up ward save. We still give them the Seed of Rebirth, and that puts us at 55 points. And I think we go Sword of Might and just give them a shield as well. So that gets them up to a 3-up save, even in combat. A 5-up ward.
Only have 3 attacks as well, or have they got 4?
They still don't have many attacks. But you're paying a little bit more. You still get the ability to evasive and fire and flee if you need to, which is just nice to have. And it gives you the ability to tool them up a little bit more in combat, which is not the end of the world. That still does give us 115 points, but I don't think there's anything that I'm super excited about in terms of...
Are we happy with the Stormweaver's items?
I've just gone Lore Familiar and Power Scroll. Honestly, we could probably go with the second Power Scroll. The problem with being a level 3 caster is you're less... You what, sorry?
Can you take anything to boost the Dispelling?
I think if you're doing that, you're probably more interested in going for like magic resist, right? So the Banner of Resilience, the T4 unit, let's give that unit Spell Eater Axe as well. Gives you magic resist too.
Yeah, so that's that one unit,
Yeah, and that way you still get to use your shield in combat. And I'd like to... There's no character attached to the second unit, is there? So this unit...
Well, I think the second unit would have the caster in. First unit's going to have your commander with the banner and...
That is true. That is true. Although maybe you want it to be separate so it's got better like line of sight so you can cast on both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a great way to... I'll tell you what we could do. So I think we said Vess is joining the unit that doesn't have the Razor standard, so both units have AP. So this means the War Banner unit is the more vulnerable one, because it's only T3 instead of T3. Let's just give it the Lawmaster's Cloak. It's not quite magic resist, but it gives you a 4 ward against magic missiles. So it gives you some of the same defenses, and that works there. Then, I'm wondering if, we've spent a lot of points here. Let's just see what we'd go down to if we dropped to the minimum core allocation. So if we went to 24, we were at 700, which is still a little bit over, but it's not too far over. And that gives us about 356 points to spend. Because we're still looking for some sort of hammers. Now, the Lothern Skycutters...
damage output yet, I think. I mean, we've got some with the Sea Guard with all of the AP buffs, and the Plague of Rust should start making a mess. But
if you're not playing into dragons, I think these units are decent. The problem is you don't really have an answer to dragons, and that's kind of, I think, the issue with this detachment. Because what I'd want to take in this sort of detachment is an Archmage with the Dragon Slaying Sword on a Skycutter, with a regen and then the ability to pick my spells and go for Spectral Doppelganger. But you can't take the level 4 caster, and the level 3 caster, the only mount it can take is a unicorn. That's not going to cut it. I wanted like a Skycutter mount, basically. So I think we just accept that this list is a little more fluffy, and maybe it's not a dragon slaying list.
More vulnerable to dragons, I mean, I guess there's a world where volume has a quality of its own. If you can get the Plague of Rust off on the dragon, everything shoots it at -2 to -3 to its armor. You get through the first kind of layer of saves.
Yeah, well, it'd be -3 to -4 because the unit with Armor Bane, everything's only wounding on 6s anyway.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a plan that you can go for. It's not a great plan, but if it's the only plan you have, then it is a plan. And you'll have some decent static combat res as well. From Close Order, 2 ranks banner. One of the units has a War Banner, the other one has the Battle Standard Bearer. So you're looking at static combat res of 5, which if you can then combo with like a flank charge or something like that, maybe you can try and get them out. And if they roll poorly, you've got an option there. But I don't love the plan. I'm not gonna lie. So that leaves us with what do we put in? So the Merworm, I'm not super impressed with, and it's also super slow, so I don't think it does what we want it to do here.
No, I've not been impressed enough by the bolt throwers.
They've only got 2 wounds, which is a little concerning for me.
Because I mean, you could make an argument they may help your dragon slaying side with their single shot.
You could make that argument. I don't love it. But that is an argument you could make, yes. I think, for me, what we're looking at is probably something in the lines of the Lothern Skycutters. And I haven't actually tested these yet, but I want to. I've written a list where I'm running 3 of them as kind of like points denial that also does something. I don't love chariots without characters on them, but we don't have a lot of good choices.
You can put the bolt throwers on them as well, can't you?
I think, so that's the thing. If I'm taking them, I'm thinking that maybe that I just take them with... Oh, wait, hold on. Why are we having to remove it from here? Can you only take one? Whatever. Okay, I assume you can take them in rare. No. What's the... Oh, God. What's the specific ruling on taking the Lothern Skycutters? Because it's telling me that I have too many, but I don't know what it really wants from me. If it says that you have to take, like, a general specifically... it just says Lothern Skycutters can be taken. I think that's a holdover from the base coding, so I think you can literally just take as many as you want in this detachment.
Yeah. I
was thinking that seemed pretty bizarre. Cool. So that takes us to, if we put 3 of them in, they have a little bit of punch. So they've got D3+1 impact hits at strength 5 AP2, which is nice on a chariot with Swift Stride. It does have fly, so it can, charge over things as long as you can see. You also have got the rock, so that's 2 attacks at strength 4 AP2, and then you've got 3 attacks at strength 4 AP1 from the cavalry spears. So it's not awful, but it's just not a huge amount of punch. No sea cutter with a bolt thrower magic bow thing. Sea cutter. Yeah, that's a point. We could probably look at putting in the bow. So this character here,
you got BS4 on it as well, so it's pretty good with the bolt thrower.
it's fine. It's a low range, so you're going to be hitting on 5s most of the time.
Yeah.
So effectively, just assume that you get one strength 5 AP3 hit a turn, which is, you're paying a lot of points for that, but they're doing other things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a good point. We could put the expensive bow. The problem is the bow's quite expensive. So there's the bow of the Seafarer, which is basically a strength 5 bolt thrower shot, but from a character with multi-wounds.
Oh, yes, yeah. It's got multi-wound, isn't it?
Yeah. It is 50 points, though. And I don't know where it would go. So it wouldn't go on this character. Stormweaver, I think, is only ballistic skill 4, if I remember correctly, and is also used. It's the problem with named characters. It takes up a lot of points. So, like here, I think I value the magic resist more because the other unit has the Lawmaster's Cloak.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we just don't put the bow in because I'm struggling to cut them in. Yeah. Unless
you got the points. No, you got 56. I was say if you just got a caddy for the bow, but you'd have to lose something else, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It's difficult. It is a good item. It's just hard to use, and we've got 10 points left, so I'm just going to put the Dragon Helm on because make the BSB slightly tankier for 10 points gets you to a 3-up armor save, which is not the end of the world. And yeah, that is the list that we've come up with between us, and I think this is a narrative list. This is not a list that I would necessarily want to take to a tournament myself. But, we've seen those rumours on Reddit that infantry be good soon and dragons be less good. So, hopefully down the line... Oh, Lewis seems to have gone. I guess he was bored of my shit. It's entirely possible, There you go, he's back. I don't know what happened, but...
I was bored of your shit.
Yeah. Oh, you could hear me. It's a shame that I didn't, do some more shit talking. I probably should have done. But yeah, so that's that.
I was saying exactly the same thing you were saying in that this is for a world where infantry are good again and dragons aren't quite as prevalent.
Sure.
Because I think actually if your opponent doesn't have a dragon, this can make a mess.
I think this is fine. Like if you're playing, something you can do is you can just talk to your friends. And be like, hey, I want to play Warhammer. I want to play Warhammer without dragons. Do you mind not bringing anything that's like that level of character? And be like, I'm bringing a griffin. If you want to bring something of like equal level, that's cool. But like, please don't bring a dragon. You can have a great game with this. This would be a lot of fun to play. I really like Lothern Seaguard thematically, and the models are incredible.
Yes.
Ginger Steve.
See that comment.
Lewis tried to crash the stream, but he was more than 6 to 8 feet away.
6 to 8 feet.
Did you know that it takes? It can take 20 car lengths or 20 seconds to stop in icy conditions, something like that. I guess you did know that. I
didn't have 20 seconds.
Winslow says, friends, you mean people I talk to on my Warhammer Discords? Yes, that technically counts if you don't go outside.
Definitely counts.
Yeah, perfect. Well, that brings us to the end of the High Elf section of the stream, and we do have some close order podcast questions. I have been lax on asking people to ask these, so first of all, big shout out to Winslow, who does remember, which is appreciated to give us something to talk about in this section. But if you are a member of the channel at Longbeard tier or above, you can, in the VIP section, if you don't have the VIP role apply to you on Discord, but you are a member, do post the needs role. I'll apply it, and you'll be able to see the VIP section. There is a close order podcast question section for those of you who do donate to the channel. So, starting off with Winslow. For Lewis.
Just like...
How many wounds did your mortis engine suffer in the collision? And does it count as a DUI if you're wearing a Crown of the Damned?
Driving under the influence of endless screaming.
Yep. There is at least one question in here, but it's, we'll get to that one. You said for fuck's sake, Ed. And I also, in the VIP lobby, did leak DMs of me messaging you and saying that I was brain damaged because I heard about something traumatic that happened to you and immediately was like, oh, content, excellent.
It was the savagery and the speed that I messaged you, and it was probably less than 3 minutes before the thumbnail came back.
Now, my first response was to say, I'm glad you're okay. That was the entirety of the message. It was like, oh shit, glad you're okay. Then you responded to me and the conversation continued. At that point, I was like, you're fine. Yeah, you're able to hold a conversation. You said you're okay. Callum says, if you charge with your own chariot, such as a reasonably priced hatchback, and the target chariot has countercharge, do you both take impact hits? So I'm going to take this one. So the reason that we do have a Lewis in one piece is you only have impact hits if you're countercharging, and you can only countercharge if you're facing towards the enemy chariot. And Lewis's chariot he positioned really well, and he managed to catch the enemy chariot in the rear arc, so that chariot wasn't able to countercharge, which means no impact hits. And it sounds like you didn't get any impact hits off either, because you were charging from quite a low distance.
And very slowly.
Yes, and it was not your fault, and you do not accept liability. Just going to reiterate that one. Strife says, can cars cross low linear obstacles?
I didn't crash into a wall.
No, but the car is a low linear obstacle. It's not very tall. So... Then, moving on, we have an actual question. So, I don't think you're going to be happy with either of our answers because we lived through 8th edition 40k. But Nick says, I've started a conversation in the Team England server about considering accepting allies events, and the reception was very negative. What do you guys think? Don't you think the day one comp we've forced on the game is a bit of a shame? Ed, you like pushing rules to their limit. Doesn't that open a lot of exciting opportunities for you? And Lewis, you're into Warhammer lore, and you're surely aware that in the face of greater danger, alliances between factions can be very common in the old world. Back me up, please. Do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, so I think the lore point is interesting, and I think there's a world where a narrative event could potentially see that happen. When we come to planning or TOing a competitive in Asterix event, I constantly have to ask, is something like that going to make the game better? In my opinion, would it make the game better to open up those combinations? Now, I think there's a world where someone creates a really cool, fluffy list where they've got Bretonians coming to the rescue of their empire or something like that. And it's individuals like that would make me say, yes, 100%, crack on. But then we'd also have the individuals that would find a way to get 17 dragons in a list, Edward, and would potentially open up options for combos that just aren't very fun to play against. And there's nothing wrong with making strong lists. Absolutely no problem at all. People often ask me, can I bring a strong list to Saffron Sam? And I'm always like, yes, it's the attitude that I'm interested in. But making that into a position where you're effectively encouraging people to come up with particularly horrible combos by opening up things like that, people will just game it, and that's fine. But it would probably, in my opinion, open up situations that we could just avoid by having people stick to their faction. And I mean, there's potentially some factions like Lizardmen or Skaven that might benefit from it in terms of win rate, but I don't think there's any TO that knows the game well enough to know whether you could selectively allow it to support factions that aren't doing as well. But I think I think you cause more problems than you solve, basically, is the short answer to that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of issues with allies. The first is we've seen allies. You played 8th edition 40k, right? Yeah. And there was a real halves and halves. So either you do uncapped allies and anyone can join, which is terrible, or you have capped allies, which means that the haves and have not really are a world apart. In 40k, every Imperium army ran the Loyal 32, which farmed up the resources that you used your stratagems with, and it gave you for like less than, I think it was 250 points or 300 points. You just had some cheap stuff that you could use to play the game with. You played the mission, you scored your points with them, and also they gave you resources to make your other stuff better. And 50% of the armies in the game had that, and they benefited from it massively. And then 25% of the armies had, not quite the same, but they could do something kind of similar for chaos. The other 25% of the armies could get fucked. They had no one they could ally with. That system sucks, because for some reason, Custodes were more deserving of allies than Tau, which doesn't even make sense fluff-wise, because Custodes are, famously work on their own, and Tau go around assimilating different cultures into their empire. They're the British Empire of Warhammer. So that doesn't make sense from a fluff point, but also it just wasn't balanced, and it isn't going to be balanced in Old World. There's just, there's been no testing for allies. I mean, how much testing you believe there has been done in the base game is kind of by the by, but you just take the best things out of the best armies, and it doesn't make the game better. It makes it more homogenous. And also, I think part of the reason that you got a negative response is you asked in the Team England Discord, where we're all thinking about team events, and you inherently can't have allies work because in a team event you are capped to each army. So, for example, if you had one player playing Bretonians, you couldn't run Bretonians for any other army. So theoretically, that basically stops allies from working as well, because you've got to run 8 factions already limited in. Yeah, anything else on there that we wanted to talk about?
No, I think in the chat, Chris makes an interesting point. All the arguments to modify the core game to remove allies would also be valid arguments for, say, removing dragons. And he thinks it's interesting that everyone seems super comfortable modifying it for allies, but not necessarily for modifying it for dragons.
Sure, but allies have never been tournament legal across any version of Warhammer that I'm aware of, like Warhammer Fantasy. So I don't think it's the same thing. This is like but it's effectively an optional rule that has historically not been used for tournament play. Like, obviously, if we're not talking tournament play and you want to play with your mates, then go for it. Give it a go. See if you like it. Yeah, I don't see a value to it personally. Winslow says, if I wanted to fly out for Saffron Slam at some point in the nebulous future, do you have any recommendations for lodgings and or places to avoid? Before Lewis chimes up here, it reminds me of, I can't remember who it was probably like a Mitchell Webb sketch or something. If you're asking someone where to stay, you should never ask someone who lives in the place that you're asking, because they're obviously not using the hotels. You should ask literally anyone else. So opening the field to chat. Anyone who doesn't live in Saffron Walden, is there a great place to stay around there?
There's only 2 hotels in Saffron Walden.
Oh, well, that makes it nice and easy.
You have a very lovely old English hotel above a pub, which is great. It's like 15th century. It's ancient. It's like 500-600 years old, this building. Stunning, but a little bit pricey. And then you've got Premier Inn, which is just the standard England-wide, just typical hotel you get everywhere, which is reasonably priced. Bed's comfortable, and you get a half-decent breakfast. So they're your 2 options. If you wanted to fly out Winslow, drop me a message and we'll sort something out on ticket prices and stuff, because I know it's expensive flying over, so just let me know. If you're genuinely considering it, you're more than welcome. We're worth combining with a trip to Warhammer World as well, if you've not been before. I don't know where you're flying from, Winslow, so we're only you're 2 hours on the train to Nottingham from my head, aren't you? So you can
I should probably buy a train ticket.
Visit.
Still need to do that. But yeah. So Winslow, it sounds like if you hop on a plane this weekend, Lewis might give you a free ticket.
You hop on a plane for this weekend. Having it now, you can have the free ticket.
Hell yeah. That seems super reasonable. I don't know if anyone's noticed, I'm taking advantage of Lewis in his befuddled state. I'm just offering things out left and right, none of which are mine. And then I think that we did have one final question. Let me just double check there wasn't anything else. Yes. So Ginger Steve says, after Lewis's accident, does he have to use travel mystical pathways to get to work now?
It would reduce the risk.
It would reduce the risk.
I'd have to use that spell quite a lot at 12 inches of movement to get from mine to Hertfordshire.
Yeah. And we all know how good you are at estimating 6 inches of movement. So
steady, come on.
You thought I'd forgotten, but I hadn't. Perfect. Oh, wow. Thank you, Callum. So at 6 months of membership, there's a car-sized space to sleep in Lewis's garage at the moment. That's so it wasn't your car, which is part of the reason that I'm very willing to crack these jokes.
It was a work car, thankfully. Yeah. So my car is fine. My car is rosy. Crash.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I think that takes us to the end of the stream. But before you click away, I'm getting close to the being verified on Twitch, all of that bollocks. If you haven't already and you do have a Twitch account, please do click the link in the stream description. You might have to refresh the page because I edited it in, but I need another 13 followers to hit that milestone, and then it'll be unlocked after I think the next stream. So that just gives me the flexibility to do Twitch streams and then convert that into YouTube videos down the line. Thank you, Winslow, for being here. Appreciate you. Anthony says,
there is a cot to sleep in at Lewis's house then.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. The text-to-speech just kicked in very late. I don't know why it did that, but I'm glad that it played. And Ginger Steve says there's a card sleeping at Lewis's house then. Maybe, yeah, maybe. I'm planning on sleeping in his bedroom. Not his bedroom, his spare bedroom. God, we're not denying the rumours.